Okay, for this explainer, we are tackling a really foundational story, and we're going to do it by asking a pretty provocative question. What if everything you think you know about where Satan came from is just flat out wrong?
I mean, it's a question that seems like it has a pretty simple answer, right? Most of us, no matter our background, we think we know this story. You know the one I'm talking about. A story of pride, a huge rebellion, this epic war in heaven, and then this tragic fall from grace. It's this incredibly powerful, dramatic story of good turning to evil. But here's the massive challenge that the source we're digging into presents. What if that whole popular story just isn't in the Bible? What if it's a myth? And what if the actual truth is something way more direct and maybe even a little more unsettling?
All right, let's dive right into the core argument here. The source material we're looking at presents a radically different origin story. It's one where absolutely nothing is left to chance.
And this quote, wow, it gets right to the heart of it. There's no fall, no rebellion, no change in character. This perspective argues that Satan wasn't some good angel who decided to go bad. Nope, he was created specifically to be the opponent from the very beginning. Now, this way of looking at it is key. You see, the text argues that Satan's actions aren't the result of some corrupted will, but the fulfillment of a function he was designed for. From the absolute get-go, his purpose was to wreck, to ruin, and to oppose. So the really crucial point here is that in this view, adversary isn't just a name he got after a failed rebellion. It's his job title. It's his divinely appointed function. He wasn't a good guy who went bad. He was created to be the opposition, playing a very specific role in this grand divine drama. Okay, so if he was created to be the adversary, you're probably wondering, what about all those famous fall passages in the Bible? Well, let's see how the source material we're looking at tries to debunk that whole idea.
So the argument here is that the entire scriptural foundation for this fallen angel story is basically built on a huge misreading. The source claims that these passages, the ones in Ezekiel and Isaiah, when you actually read them in their historical context, they're clearly talking about the pride and the downfall of human, earthly rulers, the kings of Tyre and Babylon, not some celestial being. And this really illustrates the source's core challenge perfectly. It just asks a simple question. If Satan fell, where's the proof? Where's the evidence? The text argues that the specific language, the words fall from heaven, are just not there when Scripture talks about Satan's origin. So, instead of finding evidence for some big fall, the source points to verses just like this one. The argument is that the Bible actually consistently describes the adversary as sinning from the beginning. It's a core part of his nature, not some state he fell into later on. Okay, this raises a huge question, right? Maybe the most important one of all. If God created an adversary on purpose, why? I mean, what could possibly be the point of that? Well, the source we're looking at proposes that this opposition is actually a necessary part of the divine plan. It's like, in this cosmic chess game, Satan isn't some rogue piece that went off the board. He's a crucial player. He's there to serve as a contrast, as a test, basically as a tool to reveal God's ultimate power in a way that just wouldn't be possible without a really strong opponent. Think about it this way. A victory is only as impressive as the opponent you have to defeat, right? Well, according to this text, for God to make a public display of his own supreme power and wisdom, he needed an opponent who was also genuinely powerful and crafty, someone who was, quote, a match for all others of God's creatures. And to support this whole idea of direct creation, the source points us to the book of Job, which is one of the oldest texts in the Bible. This verse right here, his hand hath formed the crooked serpent, is presented as straight-up direct evidence of God's own hand in creating the ultimate adversary. So, what's the ultimate implication of all this? What's the final takeaway? Well, if this theological argument holds true, it could change pretty much everything we think we know about the nature of evil itself. What this framework really tries to do is resolve that classic problem of evil. Just think about it for a second. If a perfect top-tier angel could just rebel out of nowhere, that would kind of imply God's creation had a major flaw, right? But if the adversary was intentionally created for his role, then evil isn't some cosmic accident. It means nothing is outside of God's control. And this really is the ultimate conclusion of the source's argument. It presents a universe where nothing, not even the deepest, most profound evil and sin, is an accident.
It's all just an essential part of a process, a temporary but necessary phase that's designed to lead to a final, perfect conclusion.
And that's our explainer for today. We've looked at a view that completely challenges a centuries-old story, that forces a rereading of the original text, and it leaves us to wrestle with this final question. If evil is just a tool in a much bigger divine plan, what does that really mean for our understanding of good? It's a really provocative thought to chew on, for sure.